Hey, yeah, welcome back. Delighted you could all join us here today. It's pretty exciting. I think the group as a whole is looking forward to getting back into this, getting the season kicked off again, and obviously kicking it off the way we want to, which is in Champions Cup with the opportunity to test ourselves against the very best in North America. So it's been a hugely positive off-season, I would say, from our perspective. And I know walking out of the locker room there, you got a bunch of guys that are champing at the bit and ready to go. So yeah, exciting times ahead, and delighted to be with you all today.
Mitchell Carroll with Commerce City Radio. Pádraig, you busy early, like right before Thanksgiving, flurry of moves, busy late. You've mentioned before how sometimes it could be tough to integrate these guys that come in late in the window like that and kind of miss preseason, but you had, between Teddy and Josh and some of these late arrivals, is there any concern about getting them up to speed with two competitions right off the bat like this?
I would say, first of all, we announced early and announced late. I think we were pretty busy throughout, thankfully. Yeah, you're right. That can often be a concern, and I think it's kind of more a concern when you're bringing players in from outside the league. You're bringing guys in that aren't used to the rigors of MLS and the differences, I guess, that we face here compared to what you see in either South America or in particular in Europe. I think it's a little bit easier when you integrate players that have been in the league for quite some time, especially two players like Teddy and Josh. Young players who I think have broken out already, but are on the cusp maybe of achieving something even better. And two players who I know are incredibly excited to be here. So I think as a whole, we wanted to make sure that we were bringing in the right players. I think that's something that you've obviously heard me say over and over again. When you get to the level that we feel like we're at right now, it's not just a case of bringing in anybody or of just filling out the numbers. We have to be very precise and very specific with the type of player and, again, the type of person and the character that we're bringing in. So we needed to take our time. There were key positions that we needed to fill coming out of last year. So we were targeting very specific type of players to fill those. And we weren't going to do something that didn't meet the criteria that we had in mind. That was really the most important thing for us. So, yes, Josh has come in, obviously the day before today was his first training session with the group, but he's somebody who we know fits with our game model. He's somebody that I think everybody has seen over the last 4 or 5 years, the talent he's got and what he's been able to do at Seattle, in a very successful team there in Seattle as well, a very demanding environment. And that's exactly what we're expecting of him here, is to come in and kind of provide the defensive side, I guess the defensive stability in that midfield group. We have a lot of talented players in there, a lot of competition for those starting spots, and I think he adds to that. Ted's going to be a little bit longer, obviously coming off the injury, but I think when he was really at his best 2 seasons ago, I think we saw what a young, dynamic, creative player he can be, threatening the depth in behind, being able to play inside in the pockets as well. So 2 really good guys, 2 young players, 2 athletic players, that very much fit the profile of what we're looking to do. And I think good additions after we were able to do a little bit of work earlier on in the off-season, as you said, with Ian Murphy and Cheeto coming in from Cincy. So overall, we're very pleased with the off-season. We were pleased with last season. Didn't end anywhere near the way we wanted it to, but we knew we had a good core, so we needed continuity from that perspective. But vital that we brought in reinforcements in the right areas, and I think that's what we've done.
Matt Pollard, Bergen Wave. Pete, good to see you again. How much of the Moist Bombito transfer fee was converted to general allocation money? And for the money that wasn't, how was that allocated and spent within the organization? Thank you.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that our ownership group was great. As soon as we did that, we were permitted to take all of the allocation that was permittable under the league rules. So we've done that, and we've converted the max there. That's part of what allows us to go and build out the roster and buy down the roster in the way we've been able to do that. I think if you look at our net spend over the last couple of years, like that is certainly on the side of more outgoings than incomings. And I think if you look at what we've done with with Georgie, if you look at what we've done, obviously with Rafa as well, and some other deals, the TED deal, which was of course one of the first cash for player deals in MLS. So we've been able to utilize both the cash and the GAM side of that transaction to make the team better as a whole. So we're really pleased with how we've been able to do that. And I think it's a critical part of what has got to be our business model, and I would argue a business model for all teams in this league. It's really important that we become much more active participants in the global transfer market, and that we find a way to generate increased revenues from transfer fees and then reinvest those in a thoughtful way. We are going to be a club that continues to look at young players. Like, that's going to be a key part of what we do. I think that's evidenced by the players we're able to bring through the academy, players we're able to acquire from other teams, and players we're able to track and bring in via the draft as well. So we'll use every mechanism that's open to us to try and make this team better, but we will do so with an eye first and foremost on our homegrowns, and then obviously on young players, domestic and international after that.
Brady King with Denver 7. As Chris Armas enters his second season, what's impressed you about what he's been able to do here so far?
I think as a human being, he is like no one else I've met. He's unbelievable. The positivity and the energy that he brings every day is infectious. And it's funny, I was watching training this morning with our chief scout, and I turned around and I was like, man, he's like a little kid. He's running around. It's freezing cold. He's throwing his jacket off and he's kicking a ball around. He's just enjoying it. And I think that's something that we really needed. I think there was a good group here. There was a group that we felt, a group of young players that we felt did have the potential to be better than we saw in 23. And we just felt we needed somebody that was going to be able to come in and actually just really build the camaraderie and the spirit in the group and get the best out of them. And I think his ability to connect with these young men in a way that makes them feel, confident in who they are, makes them feel trusted, and allows them to express their talents on the field is absolutely incredible. So from that perspective, in terms of the thing that stands out to me the most, that's what it is. It's just the human side of him. Obviously, he's got the X's and O's. He's able to motivate. He's really, really good at connecting, I think, with our supporters, with our stakeholders, partners, whatever it is. But just the human being is what's really impressed me the most about Chris.
Pádraig, the Ali Fadal transfer from the outside may be one of the more surprising moves of the MLS offseason in general. Fourth tier in Spain, first team contract. Can you tell us about how long that process has been in identifying him, and how that comes together as a pretty surprise move?
This might take us beyond the 30 minutes that I'm allowed here, to be honest with you. That deal is about 3.5 years in the making. So we first saw Ali when he was in Montverde. We tracked him extensively then. I remember Fran, Robin, and I all being on calls with him at the time, and we felt we were very close to bringing him in. We even, and some people may recall this, but we even did a trade to get up to the top of the waiver draft, because he was going to have to come into the league at that point in time via waivers as his entry point into the league. So we felt like we were in a very strong position to sign him right as he turned 18. And unfortunately, that deal didn't go through at that time for various different reasons. So he went to Valencia, where we continued to track him, and his progress there, I think, was maybe in some ways what you would expect for a young player with that kind of background going to such a big club. I mean, Valencia are one of the biggest clubs in Spain, one of the biggest clubs in the world, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's really difficult to break into that team. And I think the fact that he got in and wasn't just training with the first team, but did actually get into a first team game with Valencia speaks volumes to the type of talent that he has. So I think what ultimately happened was we stayed in touch with him, and then were alerted to the fact that Valencia were maybe open to allowing him to move, albeit with a sell on, a buyback, and all these other things, because I think they too shared and understood his talent and his potential. But as soon as he became available, it was something we wanted to do. I mean, as I said, when you track a player for that long, when you know their character, you know the type of human being they are, you've spent time with them, talking to them, it was important for us again to show him that just because we have an interest in you at one point in time in your life doesn't mean we're just going to forget about you when you go a different direction. So when the opportunity arose, we were pretty quick to jump on it. I think first team deals vary greatly in this league, I would say. So I don't really get too too hung up on that. Again, like with the emergence of the second team here, one of the things I love about the structure now is our ability to build out depth charts that flow right the way down, to be honest, into the U18s and even into the U16s. And I think the new structure that we have at the club with Fran, Brian Crookham and Chris Cartledge gives us a really, really strong group of guys who can understand that depth and understand the progression that's needed across the board for each of these players. So yeah, when Ali became available, it was a no-brainer for us. We wanted to bring him in. He's got, high potential, super talented player. The deal made a lot of sense for us. Obviously, he was allowed to move for free, albeit with Valencia keeping an interest in the player going forward. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see his progress. I think he's going to spend some time with the second team and get minutes there, but train with the first team. And again, it's one of the great things about a meritocracy here. You will earn your spot, and Chris will play the players that deserve to be played, and that can put us in the best position to win games on a Saturday night.
Hi, Rodrigo Camacho, Univision. Now that you were talking about Chris previously, how different is the approach for this season compared maybe to last season, now that you guys have clearly maybe established a style of play? Now you're playing the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So in terms of maybe expectations, how different are they in terms of what you guys had last season?
Yeah, we're hungry for more, to be honest with you. I think we were obviously pleased with the way the season went as a whole last year. I think, we set out with some really clear goals. We needed to get back into the playoffs. That was critical. And we needed to regain the Rocky Mountain Cup. They were two very important things for us, and we were able to achieve both. But, we're very clear in what our ultimate aims are and our ultimate ambitions are. And we fell short of that, in terms of not progressing in the playoffs and ultimately not lifting MLS Cup, right? Anytime you don't do that, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But I think coming into this year, we understood that we had taken big steps last year. You talked about the game model. I think you're absolutely right. I think we were able to get back on track there, back into a game model that we had a number of years ago when we had success. We were able to showcase that against the very best teams on the continent, we can live with those teams. You do not play 4 Mexican teams and beat them and go through in Leagues Cup the way we did without having a very talented group of players in that locker room that have a resiliency to match the talent on the field. And I think that gave us a lot of confidence. I think what became clear was that we needed reinforcements. We struggled a little bit with a few injuries after that, and the season didn't end the way we wanted to. So we were very clear and very defined in what we wanted to do in this off-season, and that does raise the expectations, and I think that's very important for our club and for every single individual that's involved in our club. We always want more, irrespective of what element that is in our club and in our business. So we're excited for this year because we do feel like we've added some key pieces in good areas. We feel like the age profile of the team is very, very, very positive from our perspective. It's young, it's hungry, but our game model demands that. It demands a lot of high intensity running. It demands a level of commitment to go along with the technical skills that are obviously needed. We think we've got the group to do that. So yeah, as I said, we're hungry for more. We want to go further than we did last year, and the same goals apply. We need to be back in the playoffs, obviously give ourselves a chance to lift MLS Cup. We need to keep the Rocky Mountain Cup now. That's critical for us. And then these other competitions, Leagues Cup and CONCACAF Champions Cup, they're just an incredible opportunity. Like, they're so exciting, and the chance to play against the best teams in North America and the Caribbean, it's really exciting for us, and we're going to go out and take every game as it comes, but with the aim ultimately of going very far in these competitions. That's what we're looking for. It's not going to be easy, but that's the great thing about the sport.
Hi, Pádraig again, Footy
Pat.
5280. You mentioned MLS getting more involved in the global transfer market, and you guys are kind of in a unique situation because last time we were together we were talking about Zach's reemergence with the national team, but you guys have a couple keepers, actually 3 keepers who have experience there, and young American goalkeepers have been a highly valuable asset in that global transfer market. So just how is the club approaching, the keepers that you have with the club, near the club, and just how important is that to include that as part of the development of some of these players, just given what their peers have experienced in similar situations?
Yeah, you're dead right. I mean, America has got an incredible tradition of producing, top-class goalkeepers. I think none better than the man who manned the post here for a long time in Tim Howard. And I think we're very fortunate that in Chris Sharp we have one of the top goalkeeping coaches, and that's somebody who, I think plays a massive role for us when it comes to recruiting goalkeepers. You know, our ability to bring keepers in is heightened by the fact that they know they're coming in to be coached by Sharpie, and that they can develop with him. And I think we've done a nice job over the last number of years of identifying goalkeepers at the various different levels throughout the club, and then, you know, ultimately being able to recruit them in here. You know, whether that's Adam locally, Real Colorado did an incredible job developing him to a point, and then we all got together and we're like, yes, for him to take the next stage or the next step in his career, it's better for him to come here. Zach was slightly different, right? He's down in Florida, he's producing, he's doing well, but again, the next step for him was probably going to be better here. And then you look at bringing someone like Zach back, like what better mentor for these young goalkeepers than, you know, the current national team goalkeeper, I would say, or certainly as you're coming off a man of the match display in the last game the national team played, he's in a good spot. I think our approach to goalkeepers is very similar to our approach to you know, all the positions. We want to have talented players at each level, and we want those players to have various different pathways, or a pathway that allows them to get the minutes they need without blocking anybody else. So we have to be specific with it. You can't just bring everybody in, because you need to get these players the training minutes and then the game minutes to help their development. But again, we're quite specific in terms of how we go about doing that, with the aim ultimately of having these players come in, produce with us, and then excel, whether that's excelling with us at the first team level, whether that's being sold, you know, abroad, whatever that ends up looking like. If they go abroad, we need to make sure we've got the next guy ready to step up and come in at that point in time. And I think goalkeeper is one of those areas where we know Zach's going to likely go to, you know, to national team camp, but we're very confident in what Adam brings to the table at that point in time, and it's a good position for us to be in.
We'll take a few more, and then we'll get ready for the CONCACAF portion of today's event.
On that note, P, you've got two goalkeepers. What are you doing at third goalkeeper, and what do you make of Robin getting back into coaching with Toronto FC?
Yeah, I mean, look, Hansen's a fantastic goalkeeper. I think he's produced already for us. He's shown the talent that he's got in pre-season. He's been terrific. I mean, I don't know if you got to see any of today's session, but he was pulling off some absolutely terrific saves there. So really pleased to have him in place, and obviously we've got Zach as well coming through. So all in all, yeah, we think our depth at goalkeeper is really strong. Thrilled for Robin. I got to bump into him last week when we were down in Florida. You know, great guy. We've obviously been able to stay in touch, and, you know, wish him all the best with the Toronto job.
Was there anybody else? I had one more. Okay. P, there was the draft pick Aurore, who had the knee injury right before the DU game, and I know there was some uncertainty about whether or not he was joining the club this year, or what was happening with his rehab. Do you have an update on what's going on with him in a timeline?
We're still chatting with him, so we'll go through the process. Obviously, he's got to recover from his injury, but as a draft and follow, we feel like we're in a pretty strong position with him. Really like the kid, super talented. We were incredibly disappointed when he didn't get to make the trip to DU. It was going to be a good opportunity to see him play. But again, we'd seen enough, and we know the type of talent he is, the type of potential he has. So ultimately, we're going to look to bring him in at some point in time, whether that's now or in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
Pádraig, what's it been like having the Bassett brothers, you know, together on the pitch, getting to play around, and sort of culturally for this team that has had so many homegrown players? Last year, I think there were 7 on a game day roster. What's it been like having those two just around and sort of adding to the culture of the team?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, this is who we are. You know, we want homegrown players. We want players that, you know, have the DNA of this club, you know, in them from a very early age. You know, and I think it's something that means something not just to our club, but to our staff, to our players, but to the community at large. You know, if we're going to talk about representing our community and being here for our community, then that needs to extend onto the field as well. Nothing's given, though. You know, nothing's given. And you know, Sam has done exceedingly well over the last number of years, whether it was his time here with the academy or then what he did at DU and the heights he's reached with them. He's earned this spot. He's earned this opportunity. I think he's put himself in a great position for his own development and his ability to kind of reach his full potential. It's really interesting though as well, right? You've got two brothers that are battling it out, playing similar positions. I'm sure they would say they can play together, and we might see that at some point in time. But again, it's exactly what I want in my position, is just really talented, young, hungry players coming through and adding to the competition for spots within the roster. So, yeah, having Sam come up has been, it's been great, I think, from a club perspective. I think it's been good for their family as well. But ultimately, it's what we want to be about here. We want these young, hungry players and primarily, or preferably players that are coming from Colorado. That means a lot to us.